everyone who has joined us, and thank you, Vilma, for accepting me, for giving me such a great opportunity to talk about the masterpieces and lots of interesting stuff in our museum that is unfortunately close to the great audience today, but we are hoping to get back to normal, peaceful life soon. And so I welcome everyone after our victory to visit our museum. But now we are focusing on the plethora of objects that are even not available for everyday contemplation, everyday visit. Some of these things are stored in our depositories, some are in our exposition, in our permanent halls. And so here I allowed myself to put my selfie with one of the sculptures that our audience can always see, but still will see lots of things that are in depositories, and patrons see them quite rarely. So what are we going to talk about? The heroes and deities. And there is a dozen of ideas I've tried to just introduce you to. And we'll talk even more about some details. But over the lecture, we'll ponder, we'll think of who is a hero? Whom can we call a hero, and how does a hero, if we define somebody as a hero, how does this person look like? So that will be the facial features, the posture, the costume, the attributes, even the companion animals, either fantastic or real. We'll follow the history of legendary heroes becoming gods, and in some instances, in many instances, like house protectors. We'll see the reflections of heroic deeds, heroic events, and heroic characters in the so-called Beijing opera, but I think it is better to call the traditional theater all the schools of so-called operas, those many operas. Then we'll be a little bit closer to the ideas of mysticism, ideas of like destiny, of different points of views, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, that were combined, not contradicting each other, but rather completing, filling in the gaps of what was known or unknown, for people becoming a kind of alloy, a special realm of all kinds of mystical things and some mysticism in daily lives of people. And then we'll also go into details like what could be like if a hero uses some magical power, if this hero is still a hero, if a deity appears in real life, that would be compared to like in say literature, in European literature, recent literature, I would say of recent few centuries, that would be a kind of mystical realism. So I cannot apply this term directly to the Chinese art or Chinese literature, but still there are so many parallels, and we'll see like there are gentle appearance of some deities, the destiny's hand directing people. Lots of stories are like not telling something absolutely out of this world, but rather suggesting that magical powers and divine things are almost everywhere, gently present here in our realm. So we'll touch the gender issues as well. Also the ideas of good and bad, the ideas of taming demons, or like directing demons, or having some bad superpowers and applying those bad superpowers for to do some good things. So that will be considered as well. And we'll also look not only at the finest paintings, we'll look at the folk art, we'll look at the sculptures, and we'll look at the ideas of that gentle divine presence in daily lives, blessing new social reality in the early 20th century. So we can start with the heroes. On the left, we have a big painting. It's more than 1 meter tall, 1 meter high, and the figure actually is tall. And this character is really extolled over the history of Chinese literature, over the way the Chinese had been presenting their history to new generations. So the real historical character, the real personality, who became a kind of a hero, extolled to the extent that his features of bravery, wisdom, ability to withstand pain, were almost like of a superhuman that could be one of a god. So here we have an inscription that Guan Yu, the god of war strategy, and that's how we perceive this real character from the Chinese history. That's the timeline. On a timeline, it's the 2nd to 3rd century Common Era. So based on some apt chronicles, some very not lengthy descriptions, later actually the author of that Romance of Three Kingdoms, there is a great dispute who was actually the author of those at least like first 70 chapters and later on. The author provides the very detailed history biography of this character, and he also supplies minor details, supplies other characters that support the grandiosity, perhaps the extraordinary personality of this character. So on the right, you see the small, in fact, it's small, it's just 12 centimeters high, the figurine of his henchman, of the person who carried his arms. And that's an absolutely fictional character from the 14th century. So you imagine the 2nd century Common Era, then we jump to the 14th century, when most probably the Romance of Three Kingdoms was written. And at this time, we have a plethora of new characters around those principal figures, principal characters of the Chinese history. And this henchman is given also a biography, and there are lots of details about him, some of his adventures. And this character is so much loved by the great audience that it becomes a part of the whole, the company of Guan Yu, really the prominent strategist, the so-called general of always changing political field, political landscape of China in those days. So this fictional character is also interesting for the readers of the romance, and then it becomes a god as well. So the descriptions given in the book, they provide the names for the weapons. So if lay people were not given proper names, like they were called like Lee the Fourth and like, meanwhile the weapons had their proper names to say the specific kind of weapon was called the knife, although it's not a knife, you obviously see this. It was called the knife of, the sword of the green dragon. Lots of, so this character, the henchman of Guan Yu, is carrying the same weapon, the almost sacred weapon, and it's already could be placed on an altar. If we worship this ancient hero as we would worship a god of war strategy, but war strategy is not always relatable to everyday lives. So these characters become also some patrons of every person who is wants to achieve wisdom, who is interested in some strategies, not only on battlefield. And they also, like any prominent person, it is supposed that any prominent person is quite wealthy and glorious, well-known. So you can ask those deities to give you some wealth as well. And in those biographies, it was written also that Guan Yu, before becoming such a prominent strategist, hero, general, he was selling he was just selling bean curd, tofu, if you will. So he is also the patron of those peddlers who walk on the street and suggest people to buy some snacks of tofu. So he's like omni-potential in his ability to provide guidance, to provide wealth, to provide good luck. And I've already spoken about his weapon as that also magical, almost magical powers, separable from the character that carries it. So the very posture of a hero, the facial features, he was described in the Romance of Three Kingdoms as a person of a like a great posture, and even having some facial features not common in people, like the color of his skin was like of almost purple or brownish purple, like the Chinese date Zhao would have. So even from his appearance, it was suggested that he has some special characteristics. And he has such a long beard. Facial hair was also often considered like excessive facial hair, could be a scary feature. And at the same time, if we are talking about military deeds, that almost tactical beard was considered a kind of another proof that his physical appearance relates to his inner abilities and his character overall. So he's dramatic, he's having such a gesture, a theatrical gesture, and his bird is like flying in the wind, and everything adds to the idea of how grand he is. So these characters appeared not only in books, there were lots of plays in the folk, like those plays mostly belong to the theater, mostly appreciated by common people. But still, all the heroism in the traditional theater was welcomed by any strata, any social group. And here we have, compared to that big painting on silk and that bronze figurine that absolutely belonged to the wealthy people, or that small figurine, bronze figurine, could also belong to a temple. The origin is not really known. Meanwhile, we have that woodblock print that would decorate the house of the poorest, the simplest in their way of living people. And we have these two characters, the one that is holding two weapons, and the one that is perching, almost perching on one sword. So these two characters are also are real historical figures, but they were like less known in literature. They were most popular in the theater plays, and common people used to buy the images of these characters just to decorate their houses, but with some idea that those military heroes from the past, so you see the dates, those are earlier Tang Dynasty characters, that they will protect the house as if they were gods, and the very name for the play, like you can see here, 3 whiplashes and 2 iron rods. The very idea, like that these armed people are here, and they can whip their they could lash the whip 3 times, like to give a signal for everyone to calm down. And in the days when the print was actually made, the idea of like beating a whip 3 times somewhere, to say on a marketplace, was considered a sign for everybody to calm down if there was a quarrel or fight like that. So both the inscription, the name of the play, and the people carrying weapons were considered the guarantors of peace, and they were considered protectors. And here's, as we see, the actually the actors playing the roles of those heroes. You can see how lavish, how sophisticated the costumes were. So if you see the character with flags behind their backs, so that's an absolute indicator that you see a military character, a general, or any other like important military figure. And their facial hair, their makeup, theatrical makeup, also provides the idea, the clues about their like exaggerated masculinity, their heroism, their stoicism, and like. And well, there were lots of stories about the strategies, the fights, the victories and defeats, and like. And after seeing lots of plays like that, although they were kind of very welcomed by audience, at some point the audience was tired. And at that time, when we are talking about the theater, at that time, an actor would appear in the crowd, like to attract and to somehow distract people, to show them something new, to interact with the audience. An actor appeared, it was absolutely non-relevant to the play. The actor would run not on the stage, but among people, and he was carrying some props or some attributes that would suggest that this is a god of wealth, or the other time that that would be a god of happiness and that who brings children. The next time that would be a god of longevity. So when the actors on the stage are performing, they are attracting audience in one way, with the plots, with the performances. But here, this character is just about crying the well-wishing formulas to wish the great audience all the wealth and longevity and have lots of children and be wealthy. So now we have this sculpture, this wooden sculpture is quite high, of actually an actor who is appearing between those plays, whose like main idea, whose job is to attract audience with some vivid new character, and to just to wish them all the happiness they could imagine. And afterwards, based on their theatrical tradition, we have this character that is both the actor and the deity, that combines the attributes of all, like the most popular deities of the Chinese syncretic pantheon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the god of wealth, the god of numerous children, the god of longevity, the god of good career, everything at once. And when we talk about the heroes, how they are presented in arts and performing arts, we have to mention that there were women. And if we go back to, we'll have, so you can see the actor in a costume of a female warrior, but we get back to the depiction of a male warrior. And based on the literature, lots of male characters, the most prominent, they were also given the impossible height of like, they would be 2 meters plus tall. So they had those specific facial features, brownish, red brownish skin, lots of facial hair, some other characteristics that would make them stand out among the crowd. But here we have, well, that's a male actor, but still this actor plays the female role. And when we have a female character, a female heroine, mostly those real historical personalities, they were from the times of late Song dynasty, when they were fighting Georgian influence from the north. So the heroines portrayed in those folk legends, then put on plays in theaters, then depicted in all media, like painting, sculpture, ceramics like here, or woodblock prints, those heroic women who helped to protect China from the barbarian tribes from the north, those characters were given not much of a description, but it was not it was neither stated that they could have some exaggerated powers, exaggerated physical appearance. They were just women, but heroic women. And here you have, you can like, it's not the best picture, but you can see the combination of even some divine features of a costume here. Both the details of a military costume, and she's standing on like quite big boots for like healthy feet only a free woman could have in those olden days of late Song dynasty of like 13th century. So the female figure, the female heroine in the Chinese history was not given much of a description, describing like lots of physical characteristics, but the actors who played the roles of these women in theaters, they were given the very sophisticated costume, so everything could combine that they were beautiful women, to suggest that they were both beautiful women, and they were also having some like prominent features as like in the inside, not on the outside, but all those costumes were to reflect their bravery and their specific personality. And well, we've never heard of women who would be like good witches that would be like serving the country. They like if we're talking about the way she fights enemies, well, she just uses her physical powers, she uses her strategic thinking, she is very devoted to her clan, she's very devoted to her motherland, she's very loyal, she's very like straight in all her thinking, what is good, what is bad. And that's for the female hero, for the heroine. And when we go back to male heroes that we can meet on the pages of the most loved books in the Chinese history, and at least in the last like 500 years. So this is the illustration for the water magians, Shi Huzhuan, the great book on very positive Robin Hood-like robbers, bandits, the rebellions against the corrupted regime of the Song dynasty. So these all 108 characters, almost every one of them has some special facial features, some features of their costume. They are often given lengthy biographies. So I would really encourage you to try to read the Shi Huzhuan, the Water Magians, in the languages available to you. to like, as well as the romance of the Three Kingdoms, just to feel the atmosphere. But what I'm going to focus on here is that we are having a character who is not only like having some facial features that underline his specific status, his worth being depicted, his worth being described in that romance, but also he has straight ability to manipulate clouds, thunder, to manipulate weather, to bring the fog and like dark clouds onto his enemies, to summon thunder. And here we can see that his magical sword is a kind of a magic wand that helps him to summon the god of thunderstorm himself. So this god is often given like half human, half animal forms. He has a beak of a bird. He has wings. He has claws like that of an eagle. So half a bird, half a human. He's beating his hammer over those drums to make the sound. And he is in this ball of fire, summoned by the magician, the hero who can manipulate elements. But what's interesting that there is no such a description within the book itself. There was a description that there were dense black clouds that made the heroes, those were first the soldiers of the emperor, who came to pacify the bandits, but later on they were defeated by the bandits and had no other choice but to join them. So there was dense black cloud, and the earth beneath their feet was just cracking. So it was not only a thunderstorm, but perhaps an earthquake that made them fall into some deep hole, and that was not the direct fight, but the magical event that made them defeat, made them surrender. So, and here you can see the other noble bandits that are going to hook them out with their tools, to hook those two characters out of that hole, and so to continue any talks with them. So the name of this character is here, Gung Sung Shan. So these Sang Chung and Li Gun are here, and actually the character that is not mentioned in the novel, but visualized here by the author from the 14th to like 17th century, when we're not sure about the precise time, but that was Ming Dynasty. So this character is really well recognizable by any Chinese. That's the god of thunderstorm, the god of thunder, mostly. And so to visualize, to make these the audience like to believe in that magic, we're given this image of the god of thunderstorm. So there is no contradiction if you are a hero, if you use their physical powers, or if you are using magical powers, you are still a hero. And this character, Kung Sung Shan, he is given like the rank, almost the rank of like a magician helping the noble rebellions, but he's never depicted as a kind of a deity, although his abilities are extraordinary. So now we are going to move to the deities, like directly the characters that are understood as deities only. But most of them have their historical prototypes, as well as Lao Tzu who is depicted here riding a buffalo, getting rid of his previous life, rejecting it, as it was said, like in the legend about him, that he was about to go into his hermitage, his absolutely rejecting all his previous life, but he was asked to give Dao De Jing at this point, to leave the book in this world of like much of this problematic world before he goes somewhere to perfect himself to the state of deity. So at the very beginning of the lecture,
Marta, I'm not hearing you. Just please wait a minute. Hopefully the connection will be restored. I'll try to contact Marta.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's okay. You're here, so it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry. So I'll be. So do you see the slides now?
No slides. Please share your screen.
Yes. Okay, so
yes, everything is restored. Please continue.
Okay, yeah. I apologize for those technical details. So at the very beginning, I've stated that we are going to look at the interrelations of lots of religious and philosophical points of view in China. And while I'll be talking about deities, about gods, I won't talk about the Buddhist religion for now, because it will make the topic very lengthy. But still, I just have to focus on the mostly on Taoist deities and on the very the idea of the Chinese religion, like combining lots of teachings, lots of perceptions of characters, would be those like peaceful or some heroic warriors, some absolutely fictional characters, or some characters that used to have some real appearances in the Chinese history. So lots of things were influenced by Buddhism, but mostly I'll be talking about the almost Taoist or perceived as Taoist, because the Taoism at its very beginning has nothing to do with the folk religion, but still the folk religion penetrated the realm of Taoism, and Taoism often implied that people were familiar with the previous ideas about the world, about the human nature and the possibilities of the human to become at least an immortal, or in the most advanced way to become even a godlike creature. So Lao Tzu is the so-called like the official father of the Taoism, although his points of view, his ideas that were written in Tao Te Ching, they were like many of them were often already seen in some other literature of that really ancient period of the Chinese history. And he was often considered like just the deity that can bring like some wisdom, some understanding of the nature, and perhaps just like a good protector. That's why he appears on this vase. Like it's not just a decorative depiction of like something on a vase. For sure, this vase should suggest that it brings good luck. It like harmonizes the very space where it is placed. So the depictions of heroes, gods, were often seen on decorative items as well, and those decorative items were not considered sacred per se, but more like of the items that can harmonize the very space around them. And I'm sorry, there must be a change in slides. I'm sorry, Vilma, perhaps I need your help.
Yes.
So I want to go to another slide.
Yes.
And there is some technical problem with the screen sharing so far. We are like
Could you
in the
please
middle.
share the screen once again?
Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, just again. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. So, and also when the Taoist point of view was all about the harmony of space, harmony of elements, harmony of genders in society. There were lots of attention given to the female characters, although like perhaps 90% of all heroes and gods venerated by the Chinese on all occasions, like could that be like asking for longevity or some wisdom or wealth, the realm of gods was like gods and heroes was dominated by men, by male figures. But still, there were quite a few very popular and very powerful in the way that they were presented to people, and they were understood as very mighty figures. Those were female goddesses. And one of these goddesses is actually Sivangmu. He was first mentioned in the first centuries of Common Era. And in those chronicles, in those works, writings about longevity and some supernatural happenings, she was described mostly like a snake-like spirit that lives in far away in a cave. The cave is made of jade, but still that's a cave, and that suggests that this creature is mostly like a spirit or an animal, and has not so much to do with humans. And she was also given powers of bringing up all kinds of pests and epidemics. But later on, she was considered like the female goddess. Everyone would focus on the idea that this is a female character. And after a while, she's giving more and more features of a beautiful female. She's often compared to an empress, and she is considered, eventually she's considered to be an empress of a specific realm of the Western countries, somewhere high in mountains or on the sacred island in the sea. So her realm, her kingdom is still hard to get to. She's very powerful, but she's much more beautiful. She has a beautiful appearance, and she has the will to help. She's transformed from like an evil creature, of an unpredictable creature that can bring up pests. She suppresses her ability to punish people, and in this way she's showing her feminine charm, her feminine qualities, the best feminine qualities that of helping people, of sacrificing herself, of sacrificing even her abilities to be harsh, to be harmful. So here she's a beautiful young lady. She's having that peach of long life. We've been talking about peaches during the previous lecture. So she's having it here at her back. She has a jar of specific potion, a potion of longevity, and she is accompanied by a phoenix. So Feng Huang was actually, initially it was meant to be the male and female birds of phoenix, of such a fantastic creature. But later on, the overall idea of those phoenixes became described by these two words, the phoenix. And this is, please do not mix it up with the Middle Eastern way of understanding this, the symbolism of the bird. This is not the bird that burns and revives, resurrects. This is just a magical creature. Its counterpart is often a dragon. A dragon is a male character. The phoenix is often symbolizes the feminine stuff, the feminine nature. So this late painting of Sivangmu describes her as a beautiful lady and not like unpredictable snake-like spirit that guards the potion of longevity or the peaches of longevity. And here talking about other characters, mostly of the Taoist pantheon, of the Taoist understanding of dualities of life, and the harmonious combination of those. Those were like good theoretical ideas, but still most people wanted to summon some magical powers of those extraordinary either humans or gods, or humans who became gods of because of some specific transformations. So these characters were often also considered as like the protectors of house, the symbols of good luck, the not the icons, but mostly the harmonizing spirits in the house. The depictions were relevant as much as to say some going to a temple to worship a certain deity. So they remind us, the visual reminders of gods and spirits were important for the very way of living. So here we have the 19th century painting of two saints. Heroine is only one female character among the 8 immortals, the very venerated Chinese deities of the Taoist pantheon. And those 8 characters are often given some characteristics that, like, they are old or young, they are they are embodiments of some age, of some social group, of gender and like. So Heroine is always described as a woman, although here is a nice transformation, like gentle transformation that is quite characteristic to the 19th century. She's having an attribute of another deity of the 8 immortals. She's having that basket that is mostly carried by another character in this pantheon of 8 figures, of 8 deities. And that other deities is Lanzheiher, and that character is often depicted as male who was not absolutely like cis male and has some feminine features. So like a bit of a transgender personality, and actually Heroine would rather be depicted, mostly she would be depicted with a flower, with lotus flower, but here she has, well, for some reason, she is given that basket of Lanzheiher. And she's accompanied by another character outside of those 8 immortals, 8 deities, and this is Luhar, the one who is often like substituted now in many like feng shui shops and like. We rarely see him, but we see his companion, his animal companion, and this is his big toad. Like he's sitting on his neck, at the back of his neck, and he also has this bat. It symbolizes happiness. So bien for the sake of sounding similar and being written similar, like fu. Bien fu is the symbol of happiness and good luck. And this toad has a specific name of Chan. And this toad is supposed to be a very greedy enemy that Luhar, this magician, this god of wealth, managed to control and turn into a toad and make that toad look for the treasures for him, for the hidden treasures. And if this toad would ever go astray, he would also always have a string of small coins here, so to fetch her back, her or him, this shen, but it is often considered like mostly the female character, although the original enemy, as the legend says, was a male one. So there are lots of legends about Luhar, how he appeared to people, how he even became servant to some wealthy families, and then somehow revealed that that was a god who was serving that family. The character from that appears in some chronicles starting the 8th century Common Era and becomes very popular in folk belief, joins the Taoist pantheon for the sake of like his magical abilities for the first. And then he becomes the god of wealth again among the people. Now we, as I've mentioned, like the shops would rather have the bronze toad with the coin in her mouth, and that will be it. But here we are given more description. We see the more character to the figure of a saint and less attention to the toad. And also one like hint to distinguish an extraordinary deity, a spirit among humans, is to look at the costume. And you can see that here he has a kind of a skirt over his usual robe. And these skirts, and sometimes like poncho-like scarves around the shoulders of deities. These costume elements suggest that the depicted character is actually a deity, a god. But not always, as here you can see the person with the headdress of a high-rank official of the Sung dynasty. And well, he has some boots. He's making such a, like, his posture is quite dramatic. Again, has lots of facial hair. His eyes are bulging, protruding. And this character is said to be a real person. So his name is here, Junkui. And here he has no specific feature here, except that he's beating the devils. His appearance is different from like most humans because of his bulging eyes and lots of facial hair, but he looks almost like an ordinary human. And it is said that he was going through exam system in the old China, and he wrote a magnificent essay, and he was very talented, and he was showing character, but he was rejected to get the position at the court because he was so scary. His face was so dark, and he had so much facial hair. The court decided that he would be like he's not good enough. His appearance is not good enough to serve to add some more charm, some more sophistication to the court. so he suicided. He couldn't stand that. And there is a legend that he appeared in a bad dream of Emperor Xuanzong of Tang. The emperor was feverish and he was having a bad dream of devils that were breaking things in his, stealing things in his chamber. And that, so the legend states that in a dream, Emperor Xuanzong saw that mighty character that appeared out of nowhere and scared all the devils. So the emperor woke up from his nightmare and he discovered that he was absolutely healthy. So he made his court painter, his beloved painter, Wu Daozi, to create a kind of a description, like a kind of a painting according to his description, to paint Zhonghui. So this hero from his dream would guard the chamber, would guard the palace, and from now on, no devil entered the palace. So it is said that lay people also borrowed that custom to depict Zhonghui in the much more modest techniques like woodblock prints, and putting those woodblock prints with Zhonghui to protect the house. And there are also some legends about Zhonghui that state that he is actually a chief of devils. So it's quite a contradictory tale from what you've just heard from me. Like, he was a very talented young person. He was just rejected for having some bad facial features, for like not harmonizing the inner and outer features of himself. And now you hear that he is actually the chief of demons, that he can rather make them attack somebody or retreat. And for that reason, the folk belief stated that it is better to go to make offerings to Zhonghui personally, like to bribe the biggest devil. So the biggest devil would not let the small devils harm you if you are loyal and if you bring some like donations, given some donations to the chief devil. So quite a contradictory figure in the Chinese beliefs, but still very popular, very loved. And here in this wood carving, you can see that the sculptor was very fascinated with the with that extraordinary appearance and that wrath against the devils. And what we can see in the 19th century art, it is that not often these dramatic descriptions, these dramatic features are given the most attention. In some contrast to the previous sculpture, there is this gentle painting of an old man and two children, and it brings us back to the idea of magical realism, the words that are relevant to describe the European literature of the 19th to 20th century, but also quite good for describing this gentle presence of deities in disguise. Gentle presence of magic and suggestion of magic, positive magic being around people. And so this is one of these paintings, very characteristic of the 19th century. I've seen some of these like these in the collection of Warsaw National Museum, and I hope to work on one of the such paintings here in Riga Bursa Museum. But now we are talking about the painting from the Khanenko collection, actually the Khanenko Museum collection, but eventually, initially that belonged to the Russian-French couple of Jaspar, Taisia and Andres Stefan Jaspar, and what it was bought or received as a gift in the middle of the 20th century. So we see the old man who is suggested to be a magician, perhaps a deity in disguise, and he's also perceived as a teacher of these two children, some important character to them, and it doesn't matter if he just appeared before them or if he's their grandfather or some like home instructor or neighbor. There is a kind of like gentle interaction, like he's giving them the magic gourd. We were talking about the symbolism of gourds, of those calabash-like pumpkins that could be filled with the magic elixirs. And here you see it even can host magic bats, as if they were butterflies, and they fly out of this magic gourd. So the very thing is a magical one. So the magical characters appear out of this gourd, and the symbolism of these two boys is also gentle. It suggests that there is some relationship, that this magic doesn't stop with the old man, no matter if he may live forever, if he's like almost a saint, if he is immortal. But there is some magic, some magical powers are given to those two children, the male heirs. You know about the fascination of with the male, with the boys, with children in China, and it also we can trace it back to the children who were supposed to be some oracles, some voyants of the future, even back in in Zhou dynasty, in say 7th century before Common Era and like. So there was quite a cult of children, and the children and the elderly were also venerated during the New Year celebrations. So it can be also stating from the symbolism of the flowers here. So there are plum blossoms, there are daffodils, plum blossoms again. It suggests that these are the symbols of a new year. So we can consider this small scene like an intimate encounter among generations. But as well, there is certain magic about everything that happens here. And talking about those genius children, those prodigies, those young oracles who predict future, who bring the best, who make the future the best. So here we have a folk woodblock print with such a kid, but this child is not like an ancient oracle. Like you can see the contrast. He is wearing this hat like of a schoolboy, of early 20th century, and his costume here is also almost European-like. He's carrying flags of different nations, and it states here clearly 5 nations, 1 family, or 1 republic. And he is accompanied by a female character. And this female has also some new features of her clothing, some cropped dress at the bottom that was rarely seen before. And the model of even the costume at her arms, the sleeves is quite tight. It's not the original Chinese garment with flowy silhouette, with a flowy silhouette. So they both have some a little bit westernized features of their costumes, but still the lady has this kind of straw element of her costume, and this suggests that she's a fairy. She's a divine figure. Even if we don't know, we cannot state that she's like Khanenko, to say, but she has these gentle features of a celestial being, of an immortal, that she's not an ordinary woman. So a combination of such a fairy, such a female spirit that brings a prodigy child, a very talented child. This suggests that there is still some magic in it, some blessing. But the message is clearly political, social, and it reflects the early days of the Chinese Republic. Stating from other prints in the series, we can roughly estimate that this was created in 1915. And as you can see, the characters from folk religion, the imagery of folk religion was used to create new messages, to hint that there is a blessing of children, the blessing of social transformation, that this is not chaotic or harsh, but in fact, it's like something positive, something that should be venerated and that should be welcomed. And the appearance of these two, of kind of a mother and child, or a fairy who brings the prodigy child to the family, they all suggest that the social transformations could be like only for the better. And still there were lots of like almost neutral characters that were like relevant in all epochs. And here we have a woodblock print of a god of wealth, shen, and there are lots of legends about the prototype of this character, of this deity. But as you can imagine, it's omnipresent, and there were only the times were harsh for these characters only perhaps during the 10 years of the Cultural Revolution in China. And later on, the imagery of this god of wealth reappeared almost intact, without new additions, without some social agenda. So you can see this character in many places, in many shrines, in people's homes, like a protector, like the spirit that donates wealth to the family. The execution may differ. Here is characteristic, like very very obvious, the folk woodblock print, but there could be sculptures and and well, to to finish, to almost like to conclude, we have to look at these two traditional characters, like this boy, this epitome of the male here, the boy who is going to inherit all the wealth, who is going to support the clan. He's having that huge longevity peach. He's for sure he's wealthy. We have a coin here behind his back, and there is a god of long life appearing on the bat, flying to him. So this is a bat, imagine that it is. And the god of long life is also holding a peach. And while there are some legends behind the character of a god of wealth, some say that he is the noble person begun from Zhou dynasty. Some people say that he was an official of Sung dynasty, so the difference could be like more than 1,000 years among the characters who could live the lives that were considered later on so good, so prominent, that those people would be those characters. But here, like the god of long life is intact. He rarely has any biographical details. He's just recognized for his long head, like that kept all the wisdom during his long life. He just collected it there. And like the characters could be described with lots of details, or just given per se. So just believe me that this is a god of long life, and he's having that peach of long life. He may be accompanied by a crane or a deer, but here he's flying on a bat, riding a bat almost. So there is like no special algorithm how one becomes a deity. What do you need to have? What features do you have to become a deity? Are you absolutely fictional and like out of nowhere? Or are you given some contradictory facts to your biography? But still, there is will among people to prize some characters, to worship them, to expect some feedback, some positive feedback from them, to expect them to be their personal patrons. And I am about to complete my presentation today, but still I can't do that without the work by the contemporary artist who had an exhibition in our museum a few years ago. And so here's his description of the spirit of the white tiger year. And these spirits that guard the each year out of the 60 years cycle, they are often given detailed biographies. They are supposed to be like real political and historical figures, and one of them is the white tiger spirit. And I expected this work to be shown in our museum in a while again. But well, we'll see. Perhaps meanwhile, while Chanpang went back to China, he may create more of the characters of the deities. He is very like proficient in creating the copies of those old images, and not only him, but there are other artists both in China and Ukraine who are very meticulous about copying the old examples of paintings of heroes and deities. We cannot say that all that plethora of characters, whatever, could be the folk prints or elite painting or a sculpture, that these are the reality of museums. So the gods and heroes from the Chinese history, the gods of the syncretic, the combined pantheon of the Chinese folk religion, they are all relevant to people today. And the ideas behind those characters give a lot of inspiration to the artists. So I hope to see more of their creations. And now I'd like to thank Vilma and thank Confucius Institute for this possibility to give this talk. And I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Marta.